Welcome to Craving the Heat, where desire takes the lead and every story leaves you wanting more. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments and keep up with our latest naughty stories. It all started on a lazy Saturday afternoon, when the sun was setting and the streets were empty, except for a few lingering joggers. I had just finished a late brunch with some friends at a local cafe and was about to head home when I received the message. It was from Matt, my husband's best friend. Matt and I had never been particularly close, but we had always gotten along, mostly out of necessity. He was good friends with Nathan, my husband, and their friendship was so close that I didn't mind him tagging along at social events, or even sometimes sharing a beer on the weekends. But there was always something about Matt's grin, though. He always seemed to linger a little too long when our eyes met. The way his laugh would drop just low enough to make me question whether it was meant for me or someone else. This time, however, his message seemed innocuous. Hey, Jenna, I know it's been a while, but Nathan has been a bit stressed lately, and I thought you two could use a break. You up for a little fun this weekend? I thought nothing of it. Nathan had been working long hours, and I had seen him fall into a slump recently. Maybe a fun night out was just what he needed. I replied quickly, suggesting a drink at the local bar, where we often went to unwind, but Matt didn't respond with an invite for drinks. Instead, he wrote, I had a different idea. Let's make a bet. I dare you to kiss me. Just one kiss, nothing more. I know you love Nathan, but you'd be surprised how liberating it can feel to step outside your comfort zone for just a moment. Are you in? I stared at the message, my fingers hovering over the screen. It felt wrong. Absurd even. Matt was Nathan's best friend, and I had always respected the boundary between us. This was a ridiculous dare and invitation that meant nothing. But there was a small, curious part of me that wanted to know what it felt like to throw caution to the wind for once, to do something unexpected, something I would never dream of doing. I laughed to myself, telling myself it was harmless. After all, it wasn't real. It wasn't like I had feelings for Matt. It was just a harmless kiss, a dare nothing more. So I did what I thought was nothing more than a playful jest. Fine, Matt, one kiss, but you better not tell Nathan. This never happened. I expected the conversation to end there, the dare to be over with no consequences, a funny story to tell later with no repercussions. But that was not how things played out. Nat replied almost immediately, and his tone shifted. Deal? But remember, he said it was just a kiss. We met at the bar an hour later, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a rush of excitement, mixed with nerves. Nathan wasn't with us. He had stayed behind, catching up on work, which was exactly what Matt had suggested. I arrived at the bar, and Matt was already waiting. He greeted me with a casual smile, his eyes too bright, too intense. I tried to brush away the tension, telling myself that this was nothing more than a joke between friends, a silly dare. We ordered drinks, chatting like old pals, but something felt off. His proximity was too close. His hand brushed mine more than once, and each time my heart raced a little faster, though I couldn't explain why. Then the moment came. The kiss. It was just a kiss, one small impulsive act, I thought. But as our lips touched, something in me shifted. His hand found the back of my neck, pulling me closer, and for a second, I forgot about everything. The heat of his lips, the rush of adrenaline, the sound of our breath mingling everything, felt alive, thrilling, and dangerous. I pulled away quickly, my cheeks flushed, my heart thudding in my chest. I shouldn't have done that, I whispered, suddenly feeling nauseous with the weight of what I had just done. But Matt didn't seem fazed. He only smirked, his eyes glowing with something I couldn't read. You're telling me it didn't feel good? I didn't respond, standing up from my seat, trying to calm the storm of emotions inside me. This was a mistake, I said, my voice shaking. We can't keep doing this. But Matt wasn't done. He leaned in, his voice low and coaxing. Why not? Don't you think Nathan would be proud of you? Finally letting go, doing something exciting for yourself. I'm just trying to show you there's more to life than what you've been holding on to. The way he spoke, so convincing, so smooth, started to wear down my defenses. The room was spinning, my thoughts scattered. How could I let myself get carried away by something so stupid? I left the bar that night, my mind a whirlwind of confusion and guilt. I told myself it was just a kiss, just a dare. I wasn't planning to do anything else. But deep down, I knew something had changed. That kiss, unexpected, careless, had opened a door that I wasn't sure how to close. I didn't tell Nathan. And at first, I thought I could forget about it. But the next few weeks were filled with tension, guilt, and something else, an inexplicable pull toward Matt. He kept reaching out, sending messages that seemed harmless at first. But each time, the weight of his words felt heavier. Than it happened. Matt invited me to a party. Nathan had been away on a work trip, and I was alone. I didn't want to go, but I didn't want to seem suspicious. Either. At the party, the alcohol flowed freely, and Matt was never far from my side. We joked, we laughed, we danced. But the connection between us was undeniable. He knew how to make me laugh, how to make me feel seen in ways Nathan had been neglecting lately. Then, the moment came again. I was tipsy, laughing too loudly at one of Matt's jokes when he leaned in, his hand on my waist, his lips brushing against my ear. "I dare you again," he whispered. I should have walked away. I should have pushed him off and reminded myself of my commitment to Nathan. But I didn't, and once again, I found myself in the heat of the moment, my hands on Matt's shoulders as he kissed me with a desperation that had been missing from my marriage for months. There was no going back now. This wasn't just a kiss anymore. It was something darker and more consuming. By the time I made it back home, Nathan was already asleep, completely unaware of the storm I had let loose. I slipped into bed next to him, my hands trembling, my thoughts a jumbled mess. The guilt clawed at me, but the feelings for Matt, the feelings I couldn't explain, didn't go away. For weeks, the affair between Matt and me continued in secret. Each time we were together, it felt more like an addiction than a choice. The intensity of the passion was unlike anything I had ever experienced, and I convinced myself that I was just following my heart until everything spiraled completely. Out of control, one night Nathan came home early from a work trip, unannounced. The door clicked shut behind him, and my heart skipped a beat. I was sitting in the living room, the guilt gnawing at my insides. There, in the corner of my mind, was the reality I had been avoiding. I was lying to him. I was betraying him in the worst way possible. "I thought you were working late," Nathan said, surprised to find me home. "I finished early," I replied, trying to force a smile. "Everything's fine, just tired." But the look in his eyes, the way he studied me, sent a chill through my spine. I could feel the weight of the secret pressing down on me. Later that night, when Nathan was asleep beside me, I received a text from Matt. "We can't keep doing this. Jenna, it's getting too dangerous. He's going to find out." The truth hit me like a freight train. This wasn't just a dare anymore. It was a spiral of lies and betrayal, and I had lost control of it all. The affair had ruined everything. I had lost the trust of the man I loved, and I couldn't keep living a double life. The guilt tore me apart every time I saw Nathan, and I knew the next time Matt and I crossed paths, there would be no going back. I thought it was just a dare, something I could dismiss and laugh off, but now it had changed everything. And nothing, no matter how much I wished it could ever be the same again. The text from Matt burned in my phone like an unanswered question. "We can't keep doing this, Jenna. It's getting too dangerous. He's going to find out." The more I stared at those words, the more everything began to crash down around me. I had been lying to Nathan, lying to myself. I had let myself be swept up in a moment of weakness, and now I was drowning in the consequences. The truth was simple. I had crossed a line I never thought I would, and in doing so, I had lost the trust of the one person who mattered most to me. Nathan had no idea, but I was living a lie that had already started to suffocate me. I glanced over at him, soundly asleep beside me. His chest rose and fell in the rhythmic pattern of someone who was completely unaware of the turmoil I was caught up in. There was a part of me that wanted to wake him up, to confess everything, to spill out the tangled mess that had become my life. But fear gripped me. Fear of losing him, of seeing the heartbreak in his eyes, of watching the relationship we had built fall apart. I reached for my phone, typing out a quick response to Matt. I can't stop. Not now, I need to see you again. The moment I hit send, I regretted it, but it was too late. I knew what I had done, what it meant. I was in too deep to just walk away now. Matt had become a force I couldn't control. The pull between us was magnetic, intoxicating. He had become my escape, my rebellion. The man who had once been Nathan's best friend had now become the catalyst for all of my darkest desires. That night, I lay in bed next to Nathan, my body stiff with tension. I was desperate to break free, to get out of this web of lies. But I couldn't. I couldn't deny what had been sparked between Matt and me. The fire was too hot, too consuming. A few days passed and the guilt gnawed at me like a constant companion. I couldn't look Nathan in the eye without feeling like a fraud. I couldn't touch him without remembering the feel of Matt's lips, the heat of his hands on my body. It was suffocating. Then one evening, Matt invited me to his secluded cabin, just outside the city. I knew Nathan would be out with some of his colleagues for the night, and the timing was too perfect. I had to go. I had to be with Matt. I couldn't remember the last time I felt so alive, so free. The drive out to the cabin was quiet, my mind racing, but my body ached with anticipation. When I arrived, Matt was waiting for me outside, his usual smirk softened by something more intense, more hungry. You came, he said, his voice low, almost with a sense of disbelief. I had to, I whispered, stepping closer to him. And just like that, the tension between us snapped, his lips crushed. Against mine with a force that left me breathless, I let out a soft gasp as he pulled me closer, his hands tangled in my hair, his mouth insistent and hungry. There was no turning back. In that moment, it wasn't just a kiss. It was a declaration. I wasn't just playing a game anymore. I was lost in him. The night became a blur of passion and guilt, of promises whispered in the heat of the moment. I tried to push away the reality, the thought of Nathan, the one I was supposed to love, but it was impossible to ignore. The connection with Matt was undeniable. It was dangerous, reckless, and it felt like I was finally breaking free from a life I didn't want anymore. But when I woke up the next morning, the consequences hit me like a cold shower. The sun was just beginning to rise, casting a soft glow over the cabin. I turned over to find Matt watching me, a look of triumph on his face. You can't go back, can you? He asked, his voice almost smug. I didn't answer at first. I didn't know how to answer. The weight of what I had just done settled on my chest like a stone. But as Matt pulled me closer, his lips brushing against my neck, I felt a flicker of something I couldn't ignore. Desire, need. This wasn't just a dare anymore. This was real. I wanted to pull away. I wanted to leave to go back to Nathan, to somehow undo the damage I had done. But I didn't. I let myself be pulled deeper into Matt's world, deeper into the chaos we had created. You're mine now, Jenna, he whispered into my ear, his hand sliding down my side. And I'm not letting you go. A shiver ran down my spine. I knew he was right. There was no going back. I had crossed a line and it was too late to take it back. What had started as a dare had spiraled into something far more dangerous. When I got home that evening, Nathan was waiting for me in the living room. He looked tired but content, as if he had been thinking about something important. My heart stopped as I walked in, wondering if he could tell, wondering if my betrayal had already shown on my face. Hey, I said softly, my voice trembling. Nathan looked up at me, his eyes searching. He smiled, but there was something behind it, something I couldn't quite place. Where were you? He asked, his voice casual but with an edge of concern. I hesitated for a moment, caught between the two. Worlds I was now living. I went out with some friends, had a drink. He nodded, his eyes softening. I'm glad you're back. I've been thinking a lot about us, about how we've been drifting. We need to work on this. Jenna, I don't want to lose you. The words cut me deep and my guilt flared, but I didn't say anything. I couldn't. How could I tell him the truth now? How could I admit that I had betrayed him in the worst way possible? Instead, I sat next to him, my mind spinning. He put his arm around me, pulling me close, and I leaned into him, though it felt like I was suffocating. I could still feel Matt's touch on my skin, the heat of his kiss still lingering on my lips. How could I still want both of them? How could I betray Nathan, the man I had spent 5 years with, and still crave Matt's attention? The next few days were a blur. I went through the motions work, dinner with Nathan, pretending everything was fine, but I knew the truth. I had crossed a line, and I wasn't sure I could ever go back. Then came the night that would change everything. I was sitting at the kitchen table when Matt texted me again. The message was simple, but it felt like a bomb waiting to explode. I think you're ready to make a choice, Jenna. You know what you want. Let me know when you're done pretending. His words hit me like a punch to the gut. I had spent so much time pretending, but the truth was clear now. I couldn't keep living this lie. I couldn't keep playing both sides. It was time to choose, but how? How could I choose between the man who had always been by my side and the man who had awakened something in me I couldn't ignore? I stood up from the table, my phone in hand, and walked out into the night. The decision had been made. I was done. Pretending, I texted Matt back. I'm ready. And just like that, everything spiraled further out of control. The moment I made the choice, the door to my life cracked open, revealing a world of passion, risk, and guilt that I had never known before. What had started as a dare had turned into an uncontrollable force, and there was no turning back now. I stood in the cold night air, my heart hammering in my chest as I stared down at the glowing screen of my phone. The decision had been made. I'm ready. The words had left my fingers, and with them, I had severed the last threads of a life I'd once thought was stable. I didn't know where this path would lead, but I could already feel the pull strong. Insistent, intoxicating, Matt's reply came almost immediately. Meet me at the cabin, tonight, no turning back. My mind screamed with doubt, but my body was already moving, my feet carrying me toward the car. Nathan was still at work, unaware of the storm brewing just beyond his reach. I couldn't think about him right now. I couldn't think about the man I had promised to love, who still had no idea that the woman he had married was already halfway gone. I drove the familiar route out of the city, the dark road stretching out before me like an endless highway to nowhere. With every mile, my pulse quickened. I could already imagine Matt waiting for me at the cabin, his eyes dark with desire, his smile crooked and confident. I could feel the heat of him even from here. My body ached for him in ways I couldn't explain, and my thoughts were consumed with the thought of what was to come. When I arrived, the cabin was dark, but the door was slightly ajar. I stepped inside, my heart racing as I took in the familiar yet foreign surroundings. The scent of pine and wood smoke hung in the air, and the room was bathed in the soft glow of a single lamp. I felt the tension in the air, thick with anticipation. Matt was there waiting. Jenna, he murmured, his voice low, rough. You came. He was standing by the fireplace, the flickering flames casting shadows across his features. His eyes were trained on me, and in that moment, everything else faded away. His gaze was intense, electric, pulling me toward him like a magnet dot without saying a word. I crossed the room, and when I reached him, I didn't hesitate. I didn't stop to think. My hands found his chest, and before he could react, I pressed my lips to his in a kiss that was pure fire. He groaned into my mouth, his arms wrapping around me, pulling me against him with a desperation that mirrored my own. His kiss was savage, hungry as if he were trying to claim me all over again, like it was the first time we'd ever touched. His hands moved to my back, pulling me closer until our bodies were pressed together, the heat between us undeniable. I could feel his pulse racing against mine, the weight of the desire thick in the air. His lips trailed down my neck, and I couldn't stop the shiver that ran through me. "You have no idea what you've done to me," he breathed, his voice rough with need. I didn't answer. I couldn't. Instead, I ran my hands up to his hair, tugging him back to my lips. The kiss deepened, more frantic now, as if we both knew. There was no going back. I could feel the weight of his hands on my body, exploring, touching, claiming me with every move. "You want this," Matt growled, his hands moving to the hem of my shirt. "You want me." It wasn't a question, it was a fact. And he was right. The need that had been building between us for weeks finally came crashing over me in a wave of unstoppable force. Before I could even think about what was happening, Matt lifted me, his lips never leaving mine, and carried me to the couch by the fire. He laid me down gently, though the intensity in his eyes told me there was nothing gentle about this. His hands moved to my jeans, pulling them off with a quick, practiced ease. I wasn't sure when I had lost my clothes or when the world outside had ceased to exist. All that mattered was this undeniable pull between us. "I can't believe we're doing this," I gasped between kisses. Matt's lips curled into a smirk as he hovered over me, his body against mine, hot and hard. "I don't think you have any idea what you're getting into," he murmured, "but I'm gonna make sure you never forget it." And then he was on me again, his lips, his hands all consuming. I lost myself in him. His touch was a brand, marking me in places I had never known could burn. The fire between us wasn't just physical, it was emotional, raw, passionate. I hadn't realized how much I had been starved for someone who saw me, who understood me in a way Nathan never had. This was not about love, not about making promises. This was about feeling something real, something beyond the confines of a marriage that had started to feel more like a cage than a commitment. Matt's hands were everywhere, and I felt every inch of him. He kissed me again, more desperately. This time as if we were both drowning and trying to save each other at the same time. His body was like fire, and every time he moved, every time he touched me, the heat between us flared brighter. And then, in one motion, he was inside me, his body slamming into mine with a force that stole my breath. The pleasure hit me like a wave, and I couldn't stop the gasp that escaped me. I could feel his body pushing me to my limits, making me ache for more. I had never felt so live, so in the moment. There was no room for anything else. No thoughts of Nathan, no consequences, no guilt. There was only the fire of Matt's body against mine. The heat of our desire burning so intensely that everything else outside of this room faded away. "Jenna," Matt whispered, his voice ragged, his lips brushing against my ear. "You're mine?" "Tonight." And as he moved with me, over me, around me, every inch of me responded to him. Every touch, every thrust, sent a shudder of ecstasy through me, pushing me higher, farther, into a place where I didn't care about the consequences. The moment we reached the peak, the world exploded around me. I cried out his name as my body shook with the force of the orgasm, my hands gripping his shoulders tightly. It was an overwhelming release, one I couldn't have stopped even if I wanted to. Matt collapsed beside me, both of us gasping for breath, tangled in the sheets, our bodies still pulsing with the aftershocks of what we had just shared. His hand felt mine for a brief moment. It felt like a calm after the storm, but the reality of what we had just done, what I had just done, started to settle back in. I knew deep down that things would never be the same. I had crossed the line. I had chosen this chosen Matt, chosen this reckless, passionate moment, and I would have to live with the consequences. But in that moment, with Matt beside me, his body warm against mine, I didn't care. I was lost in him. And for the first time in a long time, I felt alive, no longer a wife playing a part, no longer pretending to be someone I wasn't. I was Jenna, in this moment, completely and utterly consumed. And everything, every regret, every doubt was Forgotten. For now, all that mattered was the man beside me and the passion we had ignited.